This media is brought to you by Polyscope.
In the realm of tomorrow, where techniques mind, we ponder, we dream.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. This is it's great to finally meet you because this is how we meet each other nowadays over Zoom. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization and what you're passionate about? Plus, we want to talk about the thing that started this whole thing off was the performative BS email that you sent me about sometime in June. Fantastic stuff. Let's go.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Really nice to have this opportunity. My name is Hasmukh, but feel free to call me Has for the rest of this chat. I'm based in a little town just an hour from Barcelona, but I'm originally from London. I've lived here for 12 years, and my business is called The Learning Curve. It has two main fronts, and the main one is sharing information and research so to help people rethink their relationship with technology, raising awareness of what technological companies are doing to capture our attention, and also on the other side helping creators and businesses to leverage the opportunities available. And as much as companies might want to use us as the products, try and help people to leverage the opportunities available.
So are your customers mostly creators or big companies, or where do you fit?
I've got my main customers are either freelancers and creators, and now I've got some small, medium-sized businesses. At the moment, that's the right fit for me. A big company would probably require more of a bigger department, more staff, more resources. And that's not really the type of business I want to run right now. I'm trying to keep things as lean as possible. In the end, I'm doing this because I want to prioritize time with my family. And I always say to myself, I don't want to be rich with money, I want to be rich with time. So I try to maximize my output in the time I have available to work while my son is at nursery, and it allows me to have a more fulfilling and quality life with things like being able to take him to nursery every single day and having lunch with my wife and going for walks and playing in the parks in the afternoon, and not to bury myself in work from the moment I wake up to the moment I fall asleep.
So when did you decide? I mean, so many people are doing this now. There's so many people who are sort of trying to design their life around work as opposed to design their work around life, or you know what I'm saying? So did you originally have like a 9 to 5 job and then got burned out from it? And then that's
basically, yeah. I've worked in big corporations, multinationals, and it got to a point, especially after COVID, where you sort of question whether a company can really provide for you in the way that, at least I can't speak for everybody else, so I can only speak for myself and my own experiences. You go to school, you go to university, you're told to get a good grade, you're told to get a good job in a good company, and you're always going to be looked after. And at least for me, in COVID, it was for the first time that I wasn't laid off, but I was invited to start looking for a new job because the company couldn't hold the number of staff that they could. And so for me, for the first time, it was like my livelihood for me is a cell on someone's Excel on the other side. And I said, my life can't rely on that. My responsibility to providing for my family can't rely on me, my livelihood, my income being a cell on someone's Excel sheet. So that was the first time I thought, I need to be more self-sufficient, self-reliant, have my own sources of income, and as much as possible be in control of my own destiny. And this is where a lot of the research comes from in terms of, I worked in marketing. So a lot of it is investing in materials and content, in trying to stand out on social media, stand out ahead of your competition. And it made me realize that in the end, we were building a digital home on rented land. And so when it came to building my own business, I said to myself, I don't want to do things that way. I don't need to spend the time I have available to work. It cannot be invested in building on rented land. It has to be on my own land. And
Right.
so doing my own research, seeing different platforms and possibilities, it's why I tend to go more towards platforms like newsletters, like the one that you received, and LinkedIn, because I see it as the platform that's stood the test of time. Maybe it's trying to change a bit more in the last couple of years to country and keep up with the times, but it doesn't change that LinkedIn's been there for more than 20 years, and you have Instagram, you have this TikTok, and the rest of the platforms, they come and go. They have their waves, and there's no reason why. The message I try to preach to my clients is that those are waves we have to ride in our favor, and not then be sunken by them afterwards. I feel like a lot of my clients recently have this sort of I think it's called a sunken cost fallacy, where they've spent so much time on certain platforms and now those platforms aren't performing for them, and because of the time invested over many, many years in those platforms, they find it hard to let go.
Right.
And Instagram is a perfect example of that. No, I think if we all remember Instagram, if anybody watching this had Instagram from 2012, 2013, it was fresh, it was new, it was raw, it was organic. There were no algorithms, and it was a really nice place to be. So anyone who started their profile in 2012, without talking about 13 years down the line, that's probably at least all, if not at least half of somebody's working career. So it's normal that it's really hard for people to let go of that, and people just keep that content wheel spinning, and it's doing less and less for them. And so my job, I find, is to say, hey, I respect that it's hard to let go of this. You don't have to let go of it, but try to spend less of your time and attention there, and think about what's going to be there for you, or what's more likely to be there for you in 3, 5, 10 years time. And if the crazy things that are happening on social media in the last 5 years, anything to go by, I don't think Instagram is the answer. I don't think TikTok is the answer. And so you sort of have to zoom out a little bit and think, okay, so which platforms here have stood the test of time, haven't been so erratic, and for me it's LinkedIn is up there, and then the other one, you don't really call it a social media platform, but it's something that everybody has when they're having access to the internet, which is the email, the inbox. Everyone has an email address, so if you can get people's permission to send them an email, that's gold. No one can take that away from you.
And you actually own your customer.
And allowing a platform with its own interests get in between you and somebody who signed up to see things that you're doing. No, that's what a follower does. No, somebody follows you because they want to see what you get up to, but the algorithmic feed is now a barrier in between that. They're saying, oh, well, you can follow that person, but we'll decide if they still appear for you. It's like, well, hang on, I follow that person. I want them to appear in my feed, and even then you don't appear. So
exactly,
it feels irresponsible to let somebody else decide whether you appear. And in an email, nobody else decides. You send an email, and it will go in the inbox.
Right.
The rest of it's up to you. The rest of it's up to you to write a convincing enough subject line to convince them to open the email. Then it's up to you to make the introduction of the email compelling enough to want to read the rest of the email. So that's down to the skill and craft of the newsletter creator. But again, that's much more within your own control and not somebody else's.
Well, it's become, I mean, I remember the days when the hard part was building the business, was trying to decide what you were going to build, and then building the business, and then getting it out the door. And then marketing and advertising and promoting were, they weren't the most important things that you had to do. Of course, now it's flipped. It's the complete opposite. And the most important thing you need to do is build an audience, because if you don't build an audience, then you're basically invisible. Like you're completely invisible. And I like the other point you were mentioning is that if you think about follower counts and things like that, it's like I have an account on X which has 12,300 followers, and maybe I get 1 to 200, if I'm very, very lucky, views on a post, and engagement 0. Right? So the follower count, the follower numbers mean nothing. So you could have 10,000, 20,000 followers on Instagram, but if you're not getting anything out of it and nobody's seeing it, which is entirely possible because the way the algorithms are today, then what's the point? So
What is the
we have to
point?
be a little more, yeah, we have to be a little more mercenary about the way we act with these social media channels. We think that they're, our path to riches, but they're not. They're definitely not.
Absolutely not. The problem with the algorithmic feed now is you're no longer competing against your local competitor. I say the space on your phone, that little space, not the whole phone, but just that space that's your feed. I'm convinced that that's the most competitive space in the world.
Yeah,
You know, when you post something out there and you post a photo of your product, or a little a little panning video of the inside of your shop, that isn't competing against the shop next to you. That is competing against the best creators in the world. That is competing
exactly.
against people who experiment and iterate and invest, and they have been at it for a long time. Your
And they
Mr.
have bigger
Beast,
budgets than we do. They have way bigger budgets than we do.
yeah,
A lot of
they
these.
have bigger budgets. They have more time. They are not they don't have they're not bound down to this idea of a perfect feed. They are thinking about optimizing every second of attention on this algorithmic feed, and that's what leads the feed to promote or push more extreme content. No,
Yeah.
we as users, we react more. And when I say react, you react to a piece of content by liking or sharing, or giving it your attention by looking at it. We react to things that are extreme. So we react to extremely good stuff or extremely bad stuff, but something that makes us say, wow. And as the user's habit develops in this way, the creator who realizes that starts to create more extreme content, which comes to the email that I sent about performative BS.
Yeah.
I'll say BS. The other way of saying it might slip out, and I apologize for that. But yeah, performative BS. It's just people who acknowledge this change in how we use our phones and how we spend time on these social media algorithmic feeds, and they are just pushing themselves to do things that are not normal in the pursuit of people's attention. I think in that email, the example I sent was, who's now very famous, I think it's called Ashton Hall, the fitness influencer who has this ridiculous morning routine where,
Yeah, and he's like completely ripped. He looks
yeah,
totally amazing.
like the typical, 2 years ago, or even not so long ago, it would be extreme for, like, the CEO to say, yeah, I wake up at 5 and answer my emails and stuff like that. So for him to be extreme, he has to go one level further, and he's taking an ice bath at 3:55 in the morning, and so you're just pushing the boundaries a little bit more, and it's not even 8 o'clock in the morning, and he's already done an ice bath, he's done a workout, he's gone for a swim, he's closing big business deals, or at least that's what he says on the screen, and he's obviously not done any of that. It's just performative. It's to put it out there to get people's attention. His physique is enough to get people's attention. It's quite ridiculous, but
Exactly.
it's the culture, and it's this culture of showing other people how good you are, and it's the worst demonstration of reality imaginable.
But none of that is real. I think people fall for it. People fall for it. They'll watch that and they'll go, "Well, I have to get up at 3:55 and I have to have an ice bath and I have to do this and I have to do this." And the reality is that none of that stuff is real. It's all BS, like you said.
It's obvious. Like, if I had to show my morning routine, it would be like, I wake up when my son screams Bloody Mary, and I'm just like, okay, I have to wake up and do everything in 5 minutes now, and take him to school, and he'll probably vomit on me. That's cinema. If there's a video crew out there that wants to follow my morning routine, I'm sure we can make it very performative. Yes.
That would be great. But the thing is, so if you look at it behind the scenes, is that, so what is this guy trying to do? Is he trying to pitch you a product? Is he selling, like, what is he trying to get? He's basically just trying to capture your attention. So you pay attention to him, and then once you pay attention to him, then he can sell you stuff. Right? 100%. That's basically the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you said earlier was where you hit the nail on the head. Is, before you build a business, and then you look for your audience, and now I guess the positive side of all of this is that if you're not really sure about which product or service you're out there pitching, you can iterate, and you can share the behind the scenes, and you can show the process along the way, and you can get your audience along the way. And in the end, you are going to make something that your audience that you're building is going to respond to. And that's pretty much what happened to me in my business. I started in January this year. I I had a vague idea I wanted to do, but through iteration of the last now 7 months, you see what's working, what's not working, and you can change, and you can be quite agile with your approach. And before I was maybe more with a bit more fronts open, and now just from 6 months experience, 7 months experience, you just like narrow down and say, okay, with the audience I have, big or small, this is working and this is not working.
Yeah.
So you double down on this, and it's essentially the low level of what your Ashton Halls and your Mr. Beasts and your Cristiano Ronaldos and your Stephen Potts are all doing. They started very small and they just iterate. Like, okay, what did the audience respond to? Let's go down this route, and then I think.
But the thing is, that's an audience first business, which I totally get, and I've talked to people who've done that sort of thing, and they're very successful at it. But the problem is, even the audience first business is a tough slog, because you fit into this little slot, and you have to pray that the algorithms will show you to your audience. But somebody like that guy, he's getting shown to everybody, so he's gonna get a much bigger pool. So there's almost like an argument for being performative, because the algorithm forces you to be performative, but at the same time you want to stay true to your vision. So it's this dance between the two, right?
I would love to know if he's smart. Then what he would do is take advantage of all of this traffic he's generating, and then convert those people to an email list, because who knows, one day his Instagram might get hacked, or Instagram might say, hey, we don't like this content anymore, you're shadow banned or whatever. But I'd like to see if all of his attention, all of his time, all the hours in his day that he's awake, if he's spending all that time just on attention grabbing content, or if there's something
and the other thing,
like 3 moves ahead.
And the other thing I find, that these influencers, they always seem to be big and talk big and everything, and they're always on, and they're always tweeting or whatever they're doing, and you wonder, how is this one single individual doing all this? And the reality is they have a whole team behind them doing all of the work. And it's like they're just the front person, but they act as if they're doing everything. Yeah. Right? So it makes you feel like so behind. You go, oh wow, I haven't tweeted 17,000 times today like this guy has.
It's part of the performance. It's part of the performance. It's part of the performative BS, and then you as a creator or as a business, you play this comparison game, and you feel inferior because of it. And
exactly.
The only thing you should be comparing yourself to is the version of you yesterday or last year. And like, you can't be comparing yourself to other things like that. Otherwise, you're just going to go down a bad route.
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, and the other thing is that if you think about it, does he really get up if he really gets up at 3:55 in the morning, does he talk about having a good amount of sleep at the same time, or does he talk about no sleep? Because he would have to go to bed at 8 or 7.
Yeah, then I don't envy him so much. It's like, come on. What's he eating?
But you never hear that's what happened. Remember, there was a period of time when all the CEOs were going, I get up at 4, I get up at 4, I get up at 4. But you never hear about when they go to bed. So at the same time.
Well, you never hear about okay, you wake up at 4, but how much time do you spend with your wife and kids?
Exactly.
How happy is your family? Did your wife leave you because you're fully invested into your work and now you're alone, and that's why you have no reason? That's why you have all the time in the world to invest into your business, and you're lonely and sad because no one talks about that.
Exactly. And it's kind of like, what do you want? What do you really want in life? And you get that tiny little facet that gets put out there and to grab attention. And then once it's grabbed the attention, what do you do with it? That's the key.
I think so. Yeah.
So your proponent would be so if you were your customers come to you and they ask you, what am I going to do? I mean, what do you typically?
I would say you need a relationship platform. So to develop a relationship with your consumer, and that would be through your newsletter or a YouTube channel, something more long term, or a LinkedIn page, and then you'd leverage the other social medias, which would be more a discovery platform. So you take, in an ideal world, you'd have like your YouTube video, and then you take the potentially most interesting bits of your YouTube video, put that to social media, use that as a discovery engine, get people to come to the bigger piece of content, and anybody who's willing to jump just one hurdle for you, somebody who's more likely to buy something from you.
And then
it's also smart long term.
always like, but I think the core piece of it is the email newsletter, right? So you
Oh
got to
yeah,
have a newsletter where you capture the emails because then you actually do command some attention. Sure, there's spam filters and stuff like
yeah,
that, but the chances of your message being seen via email is so much higher than your chances of being seen on any social media. What do you think about
yeah,
Substack? I've had a lot of people talk about Substack lately as
yeah,
like the new thing, right? Because it seems to
yeah.
combine, it seems to combine a lot of things. It combines newsletters, there's some social aspects to it. You can do video.
Um,
What's your thoughts on that?
so I respect that they've made waves in the content platform game. They've done a very good job in getting people's attention. I think it's interesting how they've got this notes feature. So it's not like what I just said about discovery and relationship. In the end, when you use Instagram or TikTok as a discovery engine, you're trying to take them off the app. And what the apps are very good at with their crazy teams and budgets is keeping you in the app. So that's
Yeah,
not an easy thing to do. So if Substack has a blend of short form content to then bring you to the long form content, I think that's an interesting development. I'm cautious still. The reasons why I'm cautious is because for as much as they preach that they are the new hope for creators, they are still VC backed. And when you're
mm,
VC backed, you want metrics going up. And in this game, the metrics are vanity metrics, and that's is exactly what is getting creators and businesses fed up with other social media platforms, that your message isn't reaching who they really wants to see your message, and the only thing that matters is likes and follows and watch time. And when Substack is VC back like that, I can understand why they want to incorporate short form content within the platform because it keeps people within the app. I'm also skeptical about capturing emails within Substack because it's the same thing that we talked about in this call, where you're building a list, you're capturing emails on a platform that isn't yours, and so one day that your account could be cancelled for whatever reason, and then you're back to the drawing board again, and you have to start all over again.
yep,
I'm also I get it's a perfectly legitimate strategy to get the biggest creators and writers to come over to your platform, even pay them to do so. It's a great way to make noise and stand out from the crowd. But I'm not sure how much of that noise is it from being a genuinely good platform or because they've paid the top creators to come over. So I think time will tell us if that's because they're actually good or not. I've read things about open rates being quite low, between 20 and 30%, and I think the cause of that is still unclear. We're not sure if it's because of the way the app works itself or because within the app it's so easy to subscribe to new creators that you can sometimes get overwhelmed. You end up following so much, and you, just like on Instagram and TikTok, you can follow 500 accounts and you only have half an hour, 2 hours a day to consume content. You're not
exactly.
going to
Well,
have enough time.
I subscribe to a whole bunch of Substacks, and I get too much email now, so I have to go in and cut back. So
Yeah, I
it's the
think
same thing with all sorts of things. Yeah.
I think in the end, the question I like to ask myself and my clients is, do you value control or convenience? So
Mm,
Substack does very well in bundling newsletters, social feed, podcast, payments, all in one place, but then it has a cost. So if you value convenience, then that's absolutely fine. But if you value control or ownership, then there are other platforms. I used Kit for my newsletter. I think Beehive is also a very strong player in that game. They give you better data, they give you better automations. You can have basic and complex sequences, and the list is always yours. I can download the list every day, every week, and I know that worst comes to worst, if my clients leave me and my wife leaves me and I have to leave the country, whatever, I know I've got a list of emails of people who have their permission, and I can start a business again and reach out to them. No
absolutely.
one can take that. No one can take that from me.
Absolutely. So it's time to think like a futurist. It's the year 2035, 10 years from now. Where do you
Okay.
think we're going to be in 10 years? How are things going to change?
Um, I think the way we consume content will be totally different. We will
Mm,
not be using smartphones, mobile phones the way that we used to them for the last 10 years. What kind of device we'll be using, I'm not entirely sure. I do think that audio will increase. I think these smart home speakers will have more of a say, more of a presence in this game. I think there'll be less, small screen, medium screen, big screen. There's that meme everywhere where I'm taking a break from my medium screen to watch the big screen while I scroll the small screen. I think screens will take a different format and shape. It could be projected onto the wall. I think Apple have made great progresses with the Vision Pro. Not to say that that's the final product, but the iteration of it, I think it's going to be a bit more immersive. And I think it's hard to be optimistic about this part, but it's going to be harder to know who to trust, which is why I think now is the right time to build. If you want to be that trusted person, now is the time to build your list and your audience, because now people can still trust that opinion of a person. But I think even in a year, 2 years' time, not to mention 5 or 10 years' time, it's going to be really hard to be able to trust even someone and their opinion. We're already seeing trust decline in traditional news outlets. So I think that's something that is probably the most uncertain part for me. And I think we'll see two extremes, just like we're seeing extremes on social media in terms of content that it's either really good or really bad. I think we'll see an extreme in terms of people. Now we already feel very anxious, like, I've spent too much time on social media, I've spent too much time on my phone, and there's more and more of an offer of offline time. I don't know about over there in the United States, but in Europe, there's been a bit of a rise of companies and communities that say, okay, this is an offline event. We don't have Wi-Fi here and no phones are here. I myself, with my subscriber, hosted a dinner last year, and I said there were 2 rules: we don't talk about work, and there's no phones. And that was the challenge for them to say, "Oh, can I be at a dinner for 2 hours, people I don't know, without my phone?"
I love that. I love that. That's a great idea. We should definitely do more of that.
So I think that's going to be the extreme. People are going to actively seek these experiences to be like, no, I will pay to go to a place where they'll take my phone from me. I don't want to be connected all the time. I want to feel human again.
I would love to do that. That's actually not a bad idea. I really like that. I really like that concept because, people pay to go to meditation retreats and places like that. So it's like, if you could just go to a meetup where, everybody just puts their phones in a bag and it's like, okay, we're not touching any electronic devices. We're just talking. I love that.
And people felt so good after that experience. Not just in mine, but all these other projects are popping up everywhere. Because we feel so anxious after using our phone, we're constantly, as soon as we wake up, we're there scrolling. Before we go to bed, we're there scrolling. And we forget really quickly what it's like to not have that. So when we have that for a moment and we feel good from that, we seek that more. So I think that will be I think that's going to be something that's going to stay on the rise over the next few years, that we're going to seek these genuinely human experiences, and people will pay good money for that.
I love that. Maybe we can bring back Meetup in its initial form, where people were just meeting in person instead of online.
I think people want that, and just try to stay away from the algorithms. There's platforms that allow that, but they use algorithms to match you with people who to meet, and people say, no, I just want to go pure human.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much. This has been great. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
The best way would be from my newsletter. It's called The Learning Curve, and the best way to access it is through my website. It's hasmukh.com. I'll send the link. It'll be in the show notes, I guess, and you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Thanks so much. This has been great.
Thank you, Chris. All the best.
You too. Bye.
Pixels and philosophies merge and mold, a future untold, unseen.